Hello, grown black folks talk. How mean mugging and rubbernecking will mess up your independence, black women. So, it's July 4th, and so I have this actually up here for a reason. I have deeply mixed feelings about Independence Day, the 4th of July, just because I am well informed about American history. The man who wrote the national anthem not only was a slave owner, but his third verse of the national anthem mocked slaves who were fighting for their freedom because the British actually did make good and freed their slaves much earlier. So black people that signed up to fight for the British were fighting for their freedom. Um, People ask for a lot of loyalty when they have no loyalty. Slave owners knew nothing about loyalty to their workers at all. So you have Francis Scott Key out there. You have Thomas Jefferson and what he was doing to Sally Hemings whenever he darn well pleased for 36 years. You have James Madison, the author of the Constitution. And so you have a Supreme Court going back to original Constitution, talking about being originalist. Okay, there's no rights for anybody in there but landowning white males. Madison didn't even want to put in the Bill of Rights. So you're back down to the first 10, meaning the 13th, 14th, and 15th are gone. They didn't exist yet. George Washington got stuff done, but also was one of the people who worked the hardest to make sure that slavery was intended to continue in perpetuity. His best friend, Henry Lee, was the father of Robert E., who then put 120, between 100,000 and 120,000 people in the grave, trying to maintain the slavery that the Lees and the Washingtons had held up for a couple hundred years at that point. I have mixed feelings about 4th of July. I don't have mixed feelings about wanting black women to be free, however. Since this is the land of the free and the home of the brave, I hope you're brave because I got one for you today. I saw something on Sunday and I want to use it as an analogy. This celebratory fireworks. Suppose it is the 4th of July, 1826. The United States is celebrating its 50th birthday instead of its 247th today. And as you might imagine, people who thought that day was for them, including a great number of slave owners, were drinking themselves drunk and partying and celebrating and doing rockets and all sorts of other things, of course. Andrew Jackson was the president of the United States at this time, I believe, and he had wild parties even at the White House. So imagine you and a group of other black women are like, okay, we out. And as you were going by the rockets' red glare and the bombs bursting in air, you notice that from another plantation, there's another group of black women who have decided, okay, we out. Now, imagine this scene at daylight when you sight these women again. Do you think that if you were in 1826, knowing that you basically have till everybody gets over their hangovers to get far enough away and across whatever river, the Fugitive Slave Act had not been passed yet, so you at least have to get over the Ohio River, though. Can you imagine stopping what you were doing or slowing down to be rubbernecking and mean mugging because the outfits of those slaves were a little bit better shape and had a little bit better burlap than yours and a little bit finer linen than yours, and maybe one was lighter or darker or had a different kind of curl of hair or looked like they had shoes and looked like they came from a plantation that had a little more, or perhaps you noticed the brand that had been put on one of them and their master who had cruelly done that to them was known to have been richer and quote kinder to his slaves than yours, and they left with a little bit more stuff because they had more to work with. Imagine a group of black women slowing down to talk to each other, and then with all the mean mugging and competition going on there, somebody in one of those groups trips and falls and breaks a leg. So now we've gone from rubbernecking to now one group being hindered because they got to make a decision. We either have to leave this person behind or we have to be slowed down even more. And of course, all this talking and chatter and carrying on, even amongst each group, if they're too far out of reach to hear each other, now you had a broken leg, now you got people in pain, groaning and carrying on. The behavior of rubbernecking and mean mugging each other increases the chances exponentially that one or both of these groups will be captured and dragged back into slavery, if not killed. Can you imagine your foremothers being that silly in 1826? I hope not. And as we get into July 4th, I want us as Black women to think about that very, very carefully and how we spend all this time competing with each other and not having our minds on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Because if you're going to have July 4th, you better be thinking about your freedom as a Black person, as the United States does this dance between progress and regression again. Competing with other Black women is not going to get you there. As I was out on my walk on Sunday, I was still wearing my church clothes. I had put on it was a very hot day. I had put on one of my summer suits, but the wind was already picking up by the time I got outside. Well, I left very early in the morning. So I have a scarf that matches that. Y'all know how I love my blue. You've actually seen me in that suit before. I have a scarf that has that with some gold and brown tones, and I have a beautiful blue headband that I sometimes wear with it. So I'm just out doing my blue thing. And I remember, well, and of course, middle-aged white women in the neighborhood, I can kind of understand how some of them might be a little upset because from here on out, I'm going to be much more beautiful than they are. And I happen to know because of the 63-year-old silver fox who rolled up on me on January 1st, I happen to know that some of those men already left women like that and are looking for their second. And they're looking at me. I happen to know that already. So they don't want this kind of competition. They don't necessarily want to see me going around the mountain where there are more, that particular neighborhood has more single men than single women, and some of them are looking. They don't like that. I suspect that the person that called the police on me when I was up there one day, no white man would be threatened by me. That was the side of the hill that woman lived on that had a 63-year-old silver fox out there hunting. So I suspect that's part of what's going on. So I kind of expect that because from here on, I will be more beautiful than the women around me in this neighborhood by virtue of being my beautiful Black self from here on out. It was nice from 22 to 35. It's not going to be as nice for our paler kin sisters from here on out as it is for me. It just is what it is, not a boast. It's just that African American women and African women just age differently. It is what it is. I expect that. What I did not expect was for the woman and the man with beside the man and Mustang to come up and mean mug me at the corner. I'm like, ma'am, even by Black woman standards, you got a Black man with a Mustang. Why are you up here mean mugging me? I'm walking. I'm on hiking poles. And of course, most Black men think that's because I'm fat and crippled. I'm like, if you don't know what it is, and that's fine. That doesn't bother me. But I'm like, you've got the man and the Mustang. Why is it worth your time to mean mug me? I don't get it. I'm not your competition. You're not my competition. I don't want your man. I'm just walking by. But it's so ingrained in us. Meanwhile, I get up the hill and just a beautiful interaction with the people who were coming by. And one man just decided to just sit down and have a conversation with me about all the beautiful fruits and good things to eat that are out there in nature, and have a wonderful conversation about the commons of summertime and so forth, and just sat and we enjoyed each other's energy. He wasn't thinking about competing with me, nor was I competing with him. He found someone he could sit and talk to for a minute as he was on his walk, and I was already seated there. It was just a beautiful interaction. It really was. It's just like I would like to be able to relate with Black women in this way. But we've all kind of seen what's going on online. You know, folks out here picking on Simone Biles' edges. I did that video already. Every gymnast before her, people found some reason to pick at her. I watched this thing with Carlisha Hood and all the Black women who were attacking. And then come to find out, there's a report that the girlfriend of Jeremy Brown was egging him on, beating her up. I'm like, so let me see if I understand this. The man swears by his grandmother to beat Miss Hood up and has his girlfriend egging him on to do this. Meaning, he not only has a twisted idea of his Black elders, but he has a girlfriend who wants to see another Black woman destroyed. And so here's what's going on, though. Like I gave you the analogy earlier, all this rubbernecking and competition is causing us to trip each other up, and none of us are going to get free as we behave, as we engage in that behavior. There was a reason Harriet Tubman carried a gun. She wasn't going to be bothered. And see, here's the thing: what was going to happen if there became a chase and you were the one rubbernecking and broke your leg? Well, that's too bad. Those dogs that the slave masters had on by July 5th were just going to eat you up, because eventually people cannot carry you. And as Black women, we really have to get a very clear sense of understanding. Tony Gaskins did a wonderful video today about why some Black men really hate Black women now. He broke it down to how he said, and I'll have to do a separate video, but he said these type of men are the KKK of relationships. I couldn't believe that Tony Gaskins said that about his fellow Black men, but he did. And he talked about all the reasons why men don't feel like they have a fair shake in society and take it out on women. Well, sometimes we as women have that kind of behavior as well. But what I am going to put in the description for this video, because Mr. Gaskins' video deserves its own review, I'm going to put Stephanie Perry's video. I showed y'all that. I want you to learn how to look at Black women. I don't have it up here, but I'll copy it into the description. I want you to learn how to look at Black women in a sense of not competing, but people that you can learn from and be in community with and go to freedom with. But you have to check that attitude when you go in there. I have about 18 months of experience telling you. If you don't, it all falls apart. I remember being 15 years younger than I am now and being tormented by older Black women who saw me as their competition, when all I was doing was expressing my gifts and trying to find my place to serve the Lord in that church and be of value and of service to Him with my gifts. I am a magnificent musician, and it was enough to make a whole bunch of other people very upset. I am a magnificent speaker. That's enough to make a whole bunch of other people upset. I have sufficient gifts in enough directions so that all these women were just threatened. And see, the sad part about it is, see, the reason that I can come out here and eat all these other people alive, I had to survive that. The people who are most likely to have made me walk away from Black people forever at that time were not Black men. I had my difficulties in relationships with Black men as well, but I can't say that any of the five that I truly loved were hateful to me. They were gentlemen. They were gentlemen. They had their own problems. Some were just not at the stage where they were ready, but they were gentlemen. There's women that tried to kill me, destroy me. I had one tell me, I've been everywhere that you're going. And I'm sitting here like, you were born in what year? Oh, okay, Lord. I've done everything you're going to do. I said, Lord, give me music that she's never heard. And today, from time to time, she actually still plays my music and has forgotten that I wrote it. And I just let it go. I came in on a rehearsal before COVID-19. I'm like, that sounds familiar. It's not done right, but it sounds familiar. And then I realized what it was. See, but when you got it like that, you have no competition. I have no competition. Because even though these women were picking at me, the only person who was going to act a fool and give in, well, that was my choice. I chose not to. 4 of them are gone. The 5th now knows uh, we can go around in circles. But if we go to the wall, ain't nowhere else to go. And what I do my work to do is to make sure no younger Black woman feels like I told one today who called me for some things, and I gotta shake a leg and make some things happen, despite the fact that people are, like I said earlier, people are behind and not doing what they need to do on time. I'm still gonna shake a leg and make things happen. And I said to her, I said, she's talking about having to cut off family members and having to not answer phone calls. I'm like, go with it. Also, hey, you there. And thank you, hey you there. So I am not sitting up here trying to go, hey seven, hey you seven, her three, hey you there. That's a T and a three at the end. Okay, and E. Okay, thank you. People just think that you're totally. I'm like, look, if I become toxic to you, I mean, we may have disagreements because we're two different people from two different backgrounds, but I hope that we can always talk them through in a respectful way, and you can express how you feel, and I can express how I feel, and we can apologize for how we hurt each other, keep going. But at any time, if you find me to be toxic and I'm not listening, you can stop talking to me too. You have the right to do that. You're free. I work very hard to try to make sure that I don't come off as competitive to other black women. But see, I can't control what happens when black women just decide that for me existing, it's a problem. There's nothing I can do about that. There's nothing I can do about that except put the word out there. We're all attempting to maintain our rights and our freedom. We don't have time to be rubbernecking and mean mugging the next black woman. It's Independence Day. You gotta stay forward. Wake up with your mind stayed on freedom. Stop worrying about what color the other black woman is, how tall she is, how short she is, how thin she is, how fat she is, what her hair color is, what she may be happening to do that you can't do yet. If she's in your life, she may be someone for you to learn from and not have to feel like you have to put down. Let's not act like the KKK of relationships to each other. Confidence with Love put a very heartbreaking comment in on one of my videos. In light of what black men are doing to us, why are we persecuting each other? And part of it has to do with the fact that we may not realize we're in these patterns of rubbernecking each other about to trip. We out here tripping on the weight of freedom and falling and hurting ourselves and hurting each other. Maybe we don't completely realize it. And that's why I'm mentioning it on Independence Day. There may be an on the climb today, depending on do I get, because I'm definitely not going to any of the heavily publicly used area. If I go out today, it'll probably be to the Hill again, where I've done a lot of videos. Um, I always journal on the 4th of July. I thank God that given the United States actual record, He has allowed us to see it. Another year to try to get it right. The United States has needed all 247 chances. Boy, have we needed it. And as long as I'm a citizen here, I will always have that mindset. But like I said, y'all, you get up on Stephanie, Adelia, and Rashida Dow. Picky drove Child of the World, Sheeta's on the Loose, and then Stephanie Perry. And then she and Rashida Dow have founded the Exodus Summit, which is a separate YouTube channel. But here's what I have been listening to them saying as well. They have been saying that when black women begin to make their journeys, other black women are often the ones trying to pull them down as well. This is not uncommon. I'm like, I saw Picky Girl Travel the World had a video about it. Stephanie Perry had a video, and Stephanie Perry had a guest. And they all were talking about the same thing. But I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? This is why Harriet Tubman had to carry a gun. If it's 1856 and people start rubbernecking and tripping and talking out of turn and acting a fool, do you think Harriet Tubman was going to put up with that with any group of women she was leading? No, because the important thing is everybody stay focused on what? Getting free. Ladies, please take this to heart. I want to see us be able to thrive. I'm going to put Stephanie Perry's video where she recommends the other 20 content creators. I'm going to put all the Black female content creators that I recommend. And there are even some men in there. I've expanded the list. I've put Myron Golden back on the list since he talked about time is more valuable than money, so I got a maid. So that my wife, she actually enjoys cleaning, but it's not the best use of either of our time. So we can spend more time together. He has a lot of good principles about how to understand how to work in the world of wealth and resources. I'll put all that in there because we don't need to compete with black men, nor do they need to compete with us. But at this point, you want to follow people that are moving down the path, moving down the path. I want you to find your freedom and independence. But competing with other people on the way to that, when there's plenty of freedom out here for everybody, is not the way. Don't be so busy rubbernecking, mean mugging, that you trip and slow yourself down and force people to abandon you so that they can continue on their journey. It's hard for me to get that scene out of my head. Got the man and the Mustang and the mean mug. And a woman that you are never going to see after that light changes ever again. Now, I may have had a little bit of something. That man came real close to the curb, and she may have been trying to figure out why that was, but it wasn't what I was, it had nothing to do with me. Again, I was just there. Now that I think back on it, that was kind of interesting now that I think about it. But still, I was just there in my Sunday blue. Well, version 2 of my Sunday blue. That's all. I mean, there was just no need for it. And there's no need for all this competitive foolery we do among ourselves online and in churches and in community settings and in corporate life. There's just no need for it. We are beautiful, brilliant, wonderfully made black women of all shapes, shades, and sizes. And whatever you don't like about yourself, except your age, you can improve. And even age is not something to be ashamed of. You were chosen to live. I got a phone call from a black woman today. One of those manosphere type of men. They caught up with him at age 58. She's 64. So she survived him. She's doing much, much better in her life than, well, obviously he's dead. I talked with her for a while about it. A sad situation. But it's a privilege to be allowed to be alive. Even July 4th. It's a privilege that the nation did not get taken over, dismembered. It nearly happened in 1861, excuse me, the beginning of the Civil War in 247 years. It's a privilege to be able to still be here. There is enough freedom for everybody. Freedom is broad. Scarcity is narrow. Abundance is broad. Freedom has an abundance component. There's enough for all of us black women. There really is. There's enough world. There's enough places to be, places to put talent. There are enough men. There are not enough American black men, perhaps, just because there's 2 million fewer, but there's enough men. There's enough men. Trust. I just think about, just the beautiful interactions that I am having with men in my peaceful outdoor and just, I'm wearing my summer stuff now. So, and they're all watching me change size. They're all watching me get a better and more, and more disciplined looking shape. They all see it. There's plenty to go around. If there were 3 times many black women in this neighborhood than there are, well, there's still plenty to go around. Just if I ran the numbers on the 2 neighborhoods I walk in the most, there's still plenty to go around. There is abundance. There is abundance. There's no need for this competition. I'm going to put Confidence with Love's course on the self-confident black woman, becoming the self-confident black woman. Because there's in her big 4 questions, who is your competition? And when you go through this course, you're going to find out you only have one person who's your competition. And you're also going to find out, is there a box or isn't there a box? Competing for scarce resources inside a box that may not exist. Is that even necessary? Y'all go ahead and invest in yourselves. And that's something that Stephanie Perry and Shar Winter, who was her guest, and Adalia Borshade and Rashida Dow have all been saying. And Confidence with love has been saying, and Mocha Mommy and Black women making money, and I have been saying, stop competing and invest in yourself and invest in finding a like-minded community. I hope I provide a little bit of that to you on this 247th anniversary of the independence of the United States of America. I may have another video specifically about the day. We'll see what happens. I may have another subject entirely, because like I said, even this is your 50th anniversary props. As a reminder, our ancestresses, as they were on their way to freedom on that day, did not have time to notice whether or not someone on a parallel path to freedom had a slightly better grade of linen and burlap on than she did. Go thou and do likewise. You don't have to compete with other Black women. There's enough freedom for everybody. All right. Thank you for listening. Y'all have a good day now. Bye.